What's going on? It's your boy Hank Hackerson, aka Hank Hacks Hackers, and we are on the Pentest Plus pathway in TryHackMe. Ladies and gentlemen, this is actually a really good one. I'm going to kind of give you an overview of what we're going to be looking at. It's a really good one because Pentest Plus is for penetration testing, as you probably have imagined, and it's a CompTIA certification. So CompTIA PenTest Plus is we're going to be working on. I am skipping this particular section because it's literally read only. So pen testing fundamentals, red team engagements, governance and regulation, and all these fun things that you can read and you could just do this on your own through Google and your favorite search engine, basically. But what we're going to be doing today is the Metasploit introduction, and then there's all these different tools that could be used, and we're going to go through all of those. And well, not in this video, but we're going to go through those in the future videos as we complete the Pentest Plus certification, the introduction to it. And as you can see, I've completed most of these things. There's still two labs at the very end that I have not finished, so those two will actually do together and kind of learn together. But these I have completed, so I kind of can, I guess, do a little bit of a quicker solving of most of these problems, and if problems at all, really, because it's mostly, I think, we're going to be using the tools themselves. So we're using TryHackMe as always, and there's the discount link in the description below for you to leverage if you want to get a discount on an already affordable plan with TryHackMe. And so basically, as always, we go in here, we click start machine, and of course, like, share, follow, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, tell your friends about this. It's always more fun to do these things with a friend. But at the very least, please subscribe, because as you can tell, I don't charge for any of this stuff. There's literally nothing. And so it would mean a lot to me if you did subscribe, and if you just left a comment, so that the algorithm of YouTube can think that we're actually doing something useful here. And we'll get some more reach out of that. But other than that, this is all free. I'm actually paying for TryHackMe to do these things. So anyways, whatever. Enough guilt tripping for now. Moving on. So you got to start the green button right here. This one gives you the, whoops. Oh, I hate when that happens. Okay, great. So the green button gives us the victim machine that we're going to be attacking. And then the blue button gives us the attack box right here. This thing that we're going to be using to do all of our shady hacktivities, as they like to call it. So while that loads, let's kind of read through what Metasploit is. So Metasploit, we've used already several times in previous labs, and it's a really useful framework. And as the name implies, it's for exploitation, right? So there's two versions of it, which is Metasploit Pro, which is the commercial version that does a lot of things for enterprise people, and it actually includes a GUI, which is a graphical user interface. And then there's the framework version, which we're going to be working with today. That's open source, it's for free, it has a lot of stuff in it still that is amazing to do. It doesn't really offer much in terms of automation, but you can do a lot with it, and we've already done a lot with it in previous tasks. So it's a set of tools that offers reconnaissance for information gathering, scanning, the actual exploitation and the payloads that we're going to be using, the exploit environment, post-exploitation, a lot of other stuff, right? So the way that you start it is you do Msfconsole, and it starts up the Metasploit framework if you have it installed. Then there's the modules that are inside of Msfconsole that allow you to do a lot of things while you're in there, and then there's a lot of tools that allow you to do all these things that they're saying. So vulnerability research, assessment, pen testing. Some of these tools are MSF Venom to create payloads, and that can be done without starting Msfconsole. The pattern create, the pattern offset, there are a lot. So MSF Venom is going to be what we're going to be using within this module, but all these other things are useful in exploit development, which is beyond the scope of this module because it's an intro to Msfconsole. So that's kind of the introduction of Metasploit. So the main component is going to be the Msfconsole command that we're going to end up running. And then within the Msfconsole, we're going to be looking at certain things. So we want to find exploits, we want to find vulnerabilities, and we want to create payloads. That's the whole idea. So exploit is a piece of code that uses a vulnerability present on the target system. Vulnerability is a design, coding, or logic flaw affecting the target system. And there is the CVE database, the Common Vulnerabilities database, that you can use to find vulnerabilities against different versions of systems and different types of systems. So there's a lot of different ways to find vulnerabilities. And then within Metasploit itself, and even within Nmap, there are scripts that you can run to find vulnerabilities for you. And then once you have the vulnerability, you create a payload that will allow you to exploit the machine. So that's kind of what it looks like. So in this folder that's inside our attack box, we're going to find all of these different modules that are available within Metasploit. And then there's the encoders that are also available within the same exact thing. And then you just go inside the encoders folder instead of being inside the auxiliary folder, modules folder. And then there's the evasion stuff that's available for Windows. Then there's the exploits that are available. And this is really crazy because there's Android, so for cell phone attacks, right? So Android exploits, Apple iOS exploits, Firefox exploits, Linux, anything. There's a lot of stuff that's available. NOPS is no operation, do nothing literally. So these are represented in the Intel family, and they're represented with 0x90. Following the CPU will do nothing for one cycle. So they're often used as a buffer for consistent and consistencies, consistent payload sizes, so on and so forth. So there's the NOPS folder that includes all of this stuff. And then there's the actual payloads themselves that include adapters, singles, stagers, etc., etc., etc. So there's the post section, which goes to the final stage of penetration testing for post exploitation. So you've already exploited, and now you want to do something after the exploit. And this is where all of the different post modules that are available. And so these are our answers, right? So, or the questions and the answers. So what is the name of the code taking advantage of a flaw in the system? That's an exploit. What is the name of the code that runs on the target system? That's called a payload. What are self-contained payloads called? They're singles. And is Windows pingback reverse TCP among singles or staged payloads? And so this, we had to do a little bit of clicking around, just going inside of these different things that were right here. So there's the, where is it? Whatever, I'm not going to scroll all the way up, but we already did all that. So you could kind of rewind the video to try to go and find that. Or you could actually go inside of the, if you have the attack box, you can just pull up these different folders, these little directories here, right? So if I go into cd opt, how's there no? So /opt maybe, there you go. So if I go inside cd opt and then list this, inside of this, we're going to find something called the Metasploit framework. And this is inside the attack box for TryHackMe. And the attack box on TryHackMe is an Ubuntu Linux installation. So if you do your own Kali Linux installation, a lot of these things also come pre-installed with any Kali Linux, because Kali Linux is for penetration testing. It's one of the only systems, or maybe the primary system, I would say, that has been designed for the purpose of penetration testing and hacking. So more often than not, all of these things come pre-installed in there. So if we go to cd Metasploit framework and then list what's in here, you'll see these different things. And then what we want is what's inside the embedded directory. And inside that, you'll see these things. And what we want is the framework directory. And inside that, there is all of these other things. And so within the modules is what all of these things lie in, right? So within modules, we're going to find auxiliary, encoders, evasion, exploits, NOPS, payloads, and post, right? So let's see if prior to, where was the singles actually included? So maybe we can actually even find that over here. Encoders, evasion, auxiliary. Nope, they don't even tell us. But so there we go. So let's go inside, for example, let's go inside the payloads directory and list what all the payloads are. There you go. And it's a singles directory, list what all the singles are, and then it shows you what all the different versions of single payloads are available. So there's the AIX, Android, Apple, iOS, so on and so forth. And so I run Apple, right? So what if I want to see what I can do to hack my own phone? And then you have ARch64 and ARM type installation. So let's see, we do ARM. And these are the available payloads. So you could do a reverse HTTP interpreter session. You could do a reverse HTTPS interpreter session and TCP interpreter. And this is, I mean, that's pretty crazy, honestly. When you think about it, it's like, it's pretty legit what you can do with Metasploit. So if we go inside the Android, same thing. You could do all of that within Android. If I went back another one and we listed what else is available. So let's see what else is available. There's Python payloads, there's Ruby payloads, Windows. Let's see what's inside Windows. The Windows payload, there's a lot of stuff inside the Windows singles payload. Reverse HTTP, reverse IPv6, reverse TCP, just a regular one. There's a reverse shell, so PowerShell bind TCP, reverse TCP. There's a lot. So this is something that I would click around and search just to see what's available. But then when we get to the next section as well within Msfconsole, as you'll see, there's an easy way to search these things without having to browse the way that we were just browsing. So I'm just going to skip to the next one, which is the Msfconsole, and this is a little bit more fun to do. And so we're going to go back to our root. It's actually that thing right here. There we go. And then I'm going to do Msfconsole just to pull up Msfconsole so that we can start searching through the different options that are available. And while that loads, we'll just kind of read through this section right here, right? So it says you just type in Msfconsole and it'll bring it up for you. It doesn't print this anymore, which is kind of sad because I really would love it for it to print that onto the screen. But it usually just processes the startup and then it gives you this. So right here. Oh, does it print it? No, it doesn't really print it. Now it kind of, what is this? It looks like a question mark, I guess, or whatever. So this is what it looks like once you're in. You actually have this thing. Whoops. You actually have this as your new line command, right? And so when you see this, that means it's been loaded. Or if you see this whole thing happening, that means Msfconsole has been loaded. So let's zoom back out of the screen and let's go find what they want us to start searching for. So if we just type in the ls command, which is list contents, and that works with most other Linux, Ubuntu type installations. The only thing that it doesn't work on is Windows, and for Windows it is dir for directory, and it lists whatever is inside the directory. So if I do ls inside here, it shows me. So it says it's executing ls, and it's showing me what's actually on my desktop right here. And this is the regular desktop. So if I just open up a normal thing, it's also the same thing right here, right? So this is what's actually on our desktop on our attack box, and we can do that when we're inside Msfconsole. The reason why this is important is you can take scripts and payloads from your local machine that you downloaded from GitHub, for example, and then you can load them into Msfconsole and then use that payload and that script for other things. So we can do clear, and it will clear the screen. So a lot of the similar commands that's actually available on Linux is also available within Msfconsole, and then you do help and it'll show you what is available within Msfconsole, or you could do help and one of these greater than symbols right here, which means I want you to output it to something called a text file. How is there no such command when it literally is telling me that I could do it right here? Isn't that crazy? Oh, they literally just said that there is no such command. So I guess there's certain things that are not available. Aha, that's what I was trying to teach you. So, okay, so the help command does show certain things. So you could do set option value. So you could say help for the command set. And so we're going to be using this when we use some of the modules later. So if we want to set the lhost, the local host parameter, you would do set lhost and then the parameter, which is our attack box IP address. We'll go through that in a little bit. History shows you the history of the commands that have been ran on Metasploit that's Metasploit session that you're on. An important feature of Msfconsole is the tab completion, which I've used a couple of times already, which you just press tab and it types the rest of the command for you. So it's very similar to this. So if I went here and I did cd pictures, instead of just doing the full word of pictures, I could just press tab midway and it'll fill it in for me. So that's one thing that's also available within Metasploit or Msfconsole. It is managed by context, meaning that unless you set it as a global variable, all parameter settings will be lost if you change the module that you're in, or you close the session and restart, so on and so forth. So in the example below, we've used this Eternal Blue exploit, and we've set such parameters as our hosts, which is the receiving host, and we're going to switch to another module. We would need to set our host again when you're inside the second module. So we're going to use exploit Windows Eternal Blue. Now, here's something that I want you to kind of get used to doing. I wonder if they're going to have us do it later. No, because we're going to be, oh, it does. So it says search, and then it kind of helps you use the search command as well. So instead of using, we could always just search for the exploit name. So let's go back to where we were right here. So we can always search for the exploit name, which would then allow us to find it and kind of shorthand the completion of the search, right? So I'm just going to open this up in a second window so I can stay zoomed in the entire time, and you can kind of see what we've been doing. So if I go back to our Msfconsole window, and let's do search Eternal Blue. If I do that, it'll bring the number of exploits that have to do with Eternal Blue, and there's one that actually has Eternal Blue in the name of the exploit, but then there are some that it's not in the name of the exploit, but in the description of it, it says, you know, Eternal Romance, Eternal Synergy, Eternal Champion, so that doesn't even have anything to do with Eternal Blue. It just has the word Eternal in it, I guess, or these might be different things that have to do with Eternal Blue maybe. But the name of the exploit specifically that we want to use is this one, which is the MS017010. So instead of me typing that, so I could do this. I could do use exploit ... Windows ... and keep pressing tab. I could do this, or I could just do use 0, which is the ID that's dedicated to that exploit, and I could just do use 0 and it'll start that exploit up for me. And then within this, we want to see what's available in it, right? So I could still do ls and see that I can see my desktop, but I could do show options, and it will show me all of the options available for the Eternal Blue exploit. Wait, I gotta get a hang of this. So these are the options that are available for the Eternal Blue exploit. So there's the rhost set of options. So this is for the victim that we need to attack. So it says this is required, so you have to set this parameter if you want this to work. The rport is required, so you have to set that if you want it to work. And this one's pre-filled for us, so the target port could just be the 445 port, because Eternal Blue I think works on this port only. Maybe we'll figure that out in a little bit. And then the verify arch is also set to yes, it's mandatory, and it's set to true, so it's either a true or a false type of a field. I need to get a hang of this because this is kind of annoying the hell out of me right now, like a little bit. There you go. Okay. So check if the remote architecture matches exploit target. So you have to check to see if that actually matches the target of the exploit. Only affects Windows Server 2008 R2, Windows 7, Windows Embedded Standard 7 target machine. So if it doesn't match those things, it's not going to work. Verify target is also mandatory, and it's also set to true. So it says check if the remote OS matches the exploited target. Only affects those same types of Windows. And then you have the local host parameters that you have to set, which has already been pre-filled for us because we're already on the local host. And so this is the IP address of the machine that I'm on right here. And then the port that is established is already 444, right? And so exploit target is automatic. It's choosing automatically what we want it to do. So that's basically it. These are the basic commands or the parameters that can be set for this particular exploit. Now that we've seen what the options are for this exploit, we want to see what the payloads are. So it's the same thing. So show payloads. And so it'll show us what the payloads are that can be used for this particular exploit that we're on, right? And you can scroll through it. There's a lot because there's different versions for different operating systems, and then there's reverse HTTP, there's reverse TCP. There's a lot of different types of payloads that can be used for this particular thing. If you don't set one, it'll just use the default or the original that was set when this thing was created. So you can set one if you want to. You can test all the different ones if you want to. But if you don't set one, it just uses a default. A couple other commands that we could use while we are inside the exploit. You could also use it when you're out of the exploit. You would just need to refer to the full path of where the exploit is. But one is called info. So you do info and it gives you all of the information related to this particular exploit, right? And so these are the vulnerabilities that it attacks, and these are all clickable links, so it'll open them up in your browser. And these are the vulnerabilities that we could attack using this particular exploit. Then let's go to the top of this thing so we could kind of see how it all starts. So it gives us the name of the actual exploit itself, which is the Eternal Blue SMB server message block, remote Windows kernel pool corruption. This is the module path. It's for Windows. x64 is the architecture. It is a privileged requirement. The license is Metasploit's license. Rank is average, I guess, so it's not that great. It's not that bad. And it was disclosed in 2017. And it's provided by Equation Group Shadow Brokers, and these are the guys that leverage this thing to do some pretty bad damage. There's a big story behind it. So for your own information, if you want to kind of see what this thing was used for, do Eternal Blue Shadow Brokers on Google, and then you'll see some really good stuff. And then Sean Dillon and Dylan Davis were the people that developed it, etc., etc. And these are the available targets that you can target using this particular exploit. There is supported, and then these are the basic options. So without having to go into show options or without even loading the exploit, you could see what it is. So I'm just going to copy this just so I can show you what that means. So I'm going to copy this path, and then if you want to exit out of an exploit, you just do back and you press enter, and it takes you back to the original thing. And so if I just did info and then the path of the exploit, it'll show me all of the information, right? And so if we went to search, and instead of searching for Eternal Blue or whatever, we want to search for a type of exploit. So we could do type auxiliary and then telnet, because telnet is also something that's pretty exploitable. It's very vulnerable. Then it'll show us all of the type of exploits that are available that are auxiliary. They're inside the auxiliary folder, and they have to do with telnet, right? So if I did search telnet, it'll give me 42 results instead of just the 15 results that have to do with the auxiliary folder, right? And so in this particular case, let's say we want to get more information about this one, but we don't want to go in here, or we want to get more information about a few of these without having to go in it, then come back, go in it, and then come back. So this one right here, for example, because it's a short one to type, and I just want to get better at typing. So I could just do info, payload, cmd, Unix, reverse. And then it gives me all the info for that particular payload, right? So it's an easy way to navigate a lot of these things, and you just get to learn a lot about the particular exploits themselves and what you can do with them. And when you're doing your pen testing exercises and, you know, ethical hacking exercises that have permission, so on and so forth, you can use this thing. Metasploit is one of the best frameworks for penetration testing. So this is one of those things that if you just get good at Metasploit, you'll probably get a lot of opportunities presented to you, because this is a really big one. And it's one of my favorite ones because it just, as you can see, there's so many options available. So that's kind of the gist of it, and how to use it, how to navigate through it. And we did the show command, we did show payloads, we did back. This is the info command, and it shows us also the info exploits search. We did that, and we did, oh, okay, this is important to know. So let's go here just so we could see one more time. So let's do search, I'll do Windows, and it'll bring everything that has related to Windows, 2,352 exploits related to Windows. And then you see this thing right here, excellent, excellent, great, normal. This is the ranking of the actual payload itself and how effective it actually is. So if it has a normal ranking, it's not going to be as effective as an excellent ranking, meaning that if you run this normal one, the chances of it actually working won't be as great as if you ran the excellent one. And this is how it's ranked right here. So we'll go back. So it says excellent ranking. The exploit, let's see, we can read it in a little bit more clear way right here. So it says the exploit will never crash the service. This is the case for SQL injections, command injection, RFI, LFI, etc. No typical memory corruption exploits should be given this ranking unless there are extraordinary circumstances. The great ranking is the exploit has a default target and either auto detects an appropriate target or uses application specific return address after a version check. Good ranking as a default target, and it's a common case for this type of software. Normal ranking, it's otherwise reliable but depends on a specific version and can't or doesn't reliably auto detect. Average ranking is generally unreliable. Low ranking is nearly impossible to exploit or under 50% success rate. And manual ranking, this exploit is unstable or difficult to exploit and is basically a denial of service. This ranking is also used when the module has no use unless specifically configured by the user. So you would have to configure the exploit to make it work. It doesn't have auto detection available. It doesn't have general payloads or things like that. You would have to modify and create everything manually. And that's basically what the ranking is for these things. And search type auxiliary, we already did that. So you know how to search by type. And so here are the answers. So very basically, how would you search for a module related to Apache? You just do search Apache. Who provided the auxiliary scanner SSH login module? And then that would be provided by running info. So you would search for, let's say, SSH login, and you would find this whole thing, and you would do info this, or you would go into it, you would use this actual exploit and type info while you're in there, and it would give you that information. Okay, so now we're going to start working with one of the modules here. And so the particular module, once you have entered the context of a module, use command will, okay, we already covered all that. We're going to set parameter value, already covered all that. So this is what the regular command prompt is going to look like before you get to Msfconsole. That's what it's going to look like once you're actually inside the Msfconsole. And then that's what it's going to look like when you're inside an exploit. You've already seen all of this. Once you run the exploit, a number of things can happen, one of which is called the Meterpreter command prompt. And so if it's successful, you'll get a Meterpreter command prompt. That means you're inside the machine in some capacity and you could do certain things. If you have a shell on the target system, so we're inside Linux, and so if we get a shell on the target system, it'll show a Windows command prompt because we've actually gotten into a Windows shell for our command prompt, right? And then this is the show options, as we've already discussed. And as you can see the screenshot above, some of these parameters require a value. They're mandatory that you have to set them. So you got to set our host, you got to show the options, and then it'll show you, right? So if you do set our hosts, and why don't I just do this? Let's actually do this together. So I believe for this exercise, we're going to be using the Eternal Blue payload or the Eternal Blue exploit. So I'm going to search for Eternal Blue again, and it'll give me the list of the exploits. I'm going to use this one because I want to use this one. And the show option says that all of these things have been already set for me, but I need to set our hosts parameter with the IP address of the machine that we're going to be attacking. So our victim machine, which is this IP address. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to say set our hosts. And it's not case sensitive, so you don't have to worry about it being caps locked. and I'm going to set my host to that. So now if I do show options again, it'll show that my R host has actually been set to the IP address. So now I want to use this, see if I can actually get the session, right? The interpreter session. So I could either do run as the command, or I could do exploit as the command. So I run it, and then it starts running. And it ran successfully because now I have a interpreter session, and these are all of the steps that it took to actually do what we wanted it to do. And these green steps are giving us good signs, right? So the green plus right here, it means that the host is likely vulnerable to this exploit. The target is vulnerable. Connection was established. Target OS is valid for the indicated SMB, and so on and so forth. And now we actually have our interpreter session. So let's see if we do a couple of commands, what we could do in here. So if we do ls, that didn't really do anything. If I do dir, that doesn't really do anything. So maybe I can do PowerShell. Oh, no, it did. It just took a long time to work. So I wonder which one worked. Did both of them work? It seems like both commands worked. It seems like both ls and dir gave me the results of what's inside the directory that we're in, and it seems like we're inside some kind of root directory. There's a lot of things that just showed up inside this thing for us to use. So let's see if we can use the common directory for print working directory, and it says we're inside a Windows machine, we're inside the system 32. So if I wanted to traverse backwards, I could just do that and do print working directory. Now I'm inside the Windows folder, and if I do that, it shows all of these things. So I want to go back one more and print working directory. Now I'm inside the regular root folder. So if I do this, it should give me the rest of the stuff. And so some things that are kind of key here, and we might be getting ahead of ourselves, but why not? So there's the program files folders that show obviously all the different programs that are available. There's a recovery folder. There's the users folder. There's a flag right here. I don't know if we're going to get it in this exercise, but we'll try to get it anyway. Why not? And then there's the users and Windows and so on and so forth. So first let's go into users and print working directory. We're inside users. Let's list what users are available. We have the public users. We have John, a default user, and all the users, right? So let's see if we can go into John's folder. We're inside John's folder. What's inside John's folder? He has a bunch of things in here. Ooh, what's here? You got recent, you got pictures. There's a couple of files that seem to be kind of important. They seem to be data files or log files. There's the My Documents folder. There's links and downloads and his desktop. Let's go to his desktop. Let's see what's on his desktop. Nope, not much. So let's go back and then let's go to maybe his downloads folder. What did this guy download? Same thing, not much. So let's see what's inside the documents folder. My music, desktop, flag number 3 is inside his documents folder. So you see, you're pretty much inside the guy's machine, and you're doing it using the command line, and you can pretty much traverse through the whole thing. So if I just do cat flag 3txt, that's the flag. So admin documents can be valuable. They sure can. So let's go back one. Let's do ls one more time. Let's go back another one. Let's do ls one more time. And we want to, I'm going to go back one more because there was another flag. Where was it? Flag 1. So let's do cat flag1.txt and access the machine completed, right? So pretty cool, pretty cool. We technically just hacked a Windows machine. That's basically all it took, is run a Metasploit session, find some vulnerabilities that apply to the type of system that we're running, and then from there you just run the exploit, which is like, it's scary how easy it can be to hack somebody. So yeah, that was it. That was it. So let's see what the questions are at the bottom here. It says, how would you set L port value to 66? We already did that for our local with our R hosts. So we did our host, right? We set our host for ourselves. We could do listen port if we wanted to for ourselves. And then unset payload. So that could be one of those things that you could do. You could set a payload to something. You could unset something. So if I wanted to unset, I'm already inside the interpreter session. So what if I can do back? or exit. I think that's what I have to do. There you go. So you do exit and you leave the session that you're in. And if I do show options, and it says that, you know, my R host is set to this, so I want to unset R hosts. And I just do that, and I said unsetting R hosts. So now if I do show options again, it'll show that the R host is empty and I can choose a different host, for example, if I wanted to, right? So very simple, like really easy, almost commonsensical how you could do this. And then what command would you run to exploit something? We used exploit. You could also use run as the command. So fairly easy to use Metasploit, which is, again, one of my favorite frameworks for hacking. All right, so last one is the summary, which is, I mean, it's not a big deal, right? So it says, as we've seen so far, it's a powerful tool that facilitates exploitation. Exploitation comprises 3 main steps: finding the exploit, customizing the exploit, and then running the dang exploit. It provides many modules that you can use for each step of the exploitation process. Through this room, we have seen some of the basics. So this is how you run Metasploit, like really, really simple and very, very easy to do. Almost scary how easy it is to run an exploit with Metasploit and hack a system, as you just saw. So have fun, be careful, don't do anything illegal, because this is all a felony if you do it against somebody and you get caught and all that stuff. So just be careful out there. Make sure everything that you do has permission attached to it, or you're running it against your own machines, so that you know there's no issues and there's no problems in that regard. So it's your boy Hank Hackerson. We just did the Metasploit introduction with TryHackMe. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share and comment. The commenting is really important. The subscribing is really important, because I do this for free and I invest my time and energy and even some of my own dollars so that you can see what's going on over here. So this was a free room, which means anyone can deploy the machines. So that's a really cool thing with TryHackMe as well. They have a lot of free rooms that without being subscribed, you can get access to a lot of these things. And 167,000 users so far have used this, and it's a very, very useful room. So even if you don't want to use the discount link to get an extra discount on top of the super affordable, so almost cheap, I think it's just ridiculous how affordable this thing is. I think right now it's like 12 bucks to get access to TryHackMe Pro, and then you would get a $5 discount if you use the link in the bio. So it's amazing. It's very, very easy to do. So everybody could afford that. I know people who spend more in Starbucks than the cost of this thing. So it's just ridiculous. But yeah, that's kind of the introductory room for Metasploit. So I will see you in the next one. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers. Talk to you guys soon.